How much screen time is too much screen time for your kids or teens? How do you teach your kids basic social skills for things like making connections, finding a job, or managing relationships? We will address all of these questions in just a moment, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge, a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability and culture of their family's environment. Now, here's your host, Jonathan Guerrero.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to have Kirt Manecke with me. Kirt is an award-winning author and founder of Smile online courses and books, helping parents teach their kids social skills, career readiness for teen success. Kirt, thank you so much for being on the Fatherhood Challenge.
You're welcome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, here is my favorite part. What is your favorite dad joke?
I love this dad joke. What did the buffalo say to his son on the first day of school? Bye, son. I've always loved that one.
Yeah, I love it too. I think I've heard this one maybe once before, but it's been so long. It's still funny.
It is. I remember it from like 20 years ago. So when you asked me to come up with something, I had to remember. I knew it was about a buffalo. And then I thought, oh, that's right. The bison. So I thought that was kind of cute.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Kirt, what is the story behind why you founded Smile online course and books?
That's a great question, Jonathan. Years ago, when I got out of college, I was partners in a startup specialty retail business, and it was very technical. You know, that was when windsurfing was popular, inline skates with rollerblades. Everything was technical, and a lot of teenagers wanted to work at our store because they thought it was the cool place to be. Well, it was a business, and I had created a 6-week training program to give the employees confidence, and they had to go through that before they were allowed to interact with customers. And it worked very well. We had a very successful store because of these great teenagers. They were very friendly, very knowledgeable. Well, fast forward years later, I noticed a lot of companies, as you probably do too, weren't training their employees. They weren't greeting people properly, not answering the phone properly. So my first book was based on my training course, and it's called Smile, Sell More with Amazing Customer Service. It's a 60-minute crash course in customer sales and service. So then I wrote my next book that we're talking about today, Smile and Succeed for Teens. And it kind of came about because of all these moms and teachers, saying that the kids don't have the people skills. I also noticed it when I'd go in businesses, I'd notice, and I didn't blame the teenagers, but I would notice that the teen, and I could relate to this, wouldn't say anything to the customers. And I knew that he had not had the type of training that I provided to give him or her confidence in my retail store. So it came about from that. The online course came because of COVID. I'm a big proponent of kids having a physical book in their hand to read. I shouldn't say kids, young adults. So that's kind of how it all started. And the teen book has done really well. It's helping a lot of kids, and I'm thankful for that.
Why are teen years such a critical time to master social and career soft skills?
Well, when you think about it, their next step is to either go to college or go get a job. And if they don't have these soft skills at that point, it's going to be difficult for them in college. They're not going to make a lot of friends. And if they do get a part-time job, or if they go right from high school to college or college to work, high school to a job, they've got to have these soft skills. That's what these employers are looking for. And when you look at surveys for employers, that's exactly what they say. That's what I looked for. When I had teens coming in my store, Jonathan, even if I didn't have a job position available, if they had good people skills, I would ask them if they could. I'd say, do you have a minute for a quick interview? If they made good eye contact, we're just friendly, because I hired for attitude, trained for skill, as they say. And if they were friendly, I was always thinking, oh, I could trust this person with Jonathan or my customers. And that's how employers think. So that's why it's so important. I'm a big proponent of having them learn this as early as possible, even kindergarten, first grade. But it seems like high school is when most educators and parents are using these materials.
So it really sounds like in the interview process, a lot of times we think, oh, the interview actually begins when we sit down in an office somewhere and then the questions begin. The interview is started. And for you, the interview starts at the very first meeting, at the very first instance of eye contact. The interview has officially begun, whether they realize it or not.
Well said. That's spot on. And it's funny you said that because I remember on the back cover of my book, I have make a powerful first impression. And that's what it's all about.
Are teens better or worse now than previous generations at social and career skills? And what are the differences from generation to generation?
I would not want to be a teenager these days. I think it's a lot tougher on them with social media and the bullying and the phones. So I think, and this is nothing against the teens, it's not their fault. I think I think it's harder for them. I think they're worse off now because of that. I mean, think about it. Somebody posts a picture of you online and it lasts forever. So the differences now are, kids are dealing with social media pressures, bullying, peer pressure, the screens, the phones. And because of that, they're not getting the social skills practice. So I think they're worse off. Before, like my generation, I'm a baby boomer. We didn't have any of that. When I had my business, I didn't have to worry about phones, employees with phones, which is great. That started with the next generation, which I don't know, I should know this. I think it's the millennials. But so that's the difference. I think they're worse off now, and I feel bad for them. That's a lot of pressure.
I agree. It is. And that leads me to wonder what is so addictive about phones that is causing teens to just stay there and locked into a whole different world and they can't interact with the real physical world.
That's another great question, Jonathan. I'm fortunate enough because of my book, I'm connected with a lot of psychiatrists and counselors, school counselors, social workers across our country. So they're really the experts with this. And they have taught me that, this addiction you're talking about, it's the same thing as when people go to casinos and pull that lever. They get a burst of dopamine. And the same thing when these young people are, and us too, when we're on social media, you look at something, you like it, then something else comes up similar to it because that algorithm knows what you like. So they'll keep those young people on there as long as possible to get the ad revenue and the eyeballs. That's what makes it so addicting. And that's the problem with just giving somebody a phone. It's not that the phone is bad. It's just they'll get on there and they'll be on there for hours.
And then parents allow it. So are parents just clueless and they're not aware of what's going on and they're not aware of the addiction? Or are parents mindful of it? And there some reason why they allow their kids to be on phones so much or screens in general?
I love that question. I've often wondered that too. And I just had a great meeting last week with a group of experts, child psychologists and social workers, counselors, and people that work with parents. And they have a better answer than even I do. And they basically said it's fear of missing out. They call it FOMO. And they said, what happens with a lot of parents, they're afraid of not giving their child a phone, but they don't understand the consequences. They don't understand the brain development and what actually happens, like you talked about the addiction. So they're not understanding that because they've never been exposed to it. And one of the parent coaches brought up a good point. She said, a lot of the parents, unfortunately, want to avoid conflict. They don't want to have the no from they don't want to have to tell their son or daughter no. They're almost like being their friend. So she has to tell them, well, you avoided conflict. So now you have to deal with the consequences. Now we have to fix what's happened to your young adult and why they're not doing well with social skills. So I think it's a whole combination of that. Those are some of the things they've told me. And they've just basically said, you've got to be their parent. You're doing them a favor by saying no to these devices and social media, especially. A lot of the experts I have spoken to, and some of them are authors who have written great books, they've said, give it a week or two. It'll be hard, but your son or daughter will actually be really relieved and happy that they don't have it. They don't have all those pressures. And think about that time that we all spend on screens. That can be used for, being out in nature and other activities that kids can do to enjoy themselves rather than, what do we really get? What are really the benefits of a teenager being on a screen? I don't think anybody can give me like one. There really isn't.
There are other elements that are important to consider when it comes to giving phones to teens or preteens, and that is trafficking.
Oh,
This is where a lot of trafficking instances begin. I've actually had guests on the program, parents who have been who have experienced this with their teen and thankfully have rescued their teen from a trafficking situation in the nick of time. So this is where this begins. Also, kids are being exposed to pornography at earlier ages than what has been in the past. Access to it has become easier. And when kids get into, once they get exposed to it, once they see it, it's hard to turn back from it. It can ruin their perception of relationships, of what a good relationship is, and the social skills. At this point, everything goes out the window. So there's so much damage that just makes it not worth it.
I'm glad you brought that up. There's a great book called Disconnected by Thomas Kirsting. He was a school psychologist. Now he's in private practice. But what he basically says is, and I don't blame the parents. This is a really tough time to parent. He said, he gets so many questions from parents. What is the right age for me to give my kid a phone? And he says, when you want them to be exposed to pornography. And what you said about the predators on there and the trafficking, it is terrible. And I forgot what they call it, but it's where, they trap that individual into thinking it's a young lady his age, if it's a male teenager. Oh, send me some naked pictures of you. I'll send you some of me. And then they say, okay, get us $10,000 or we're going to post these publicly. So like you're
Yep.
saying, this it's not worth it. Again, what benefit do they get from a screen? And I know it's tough, it's peer pressure, but I think it's an easier life for teens if they have limited access to it or maybe no phone for a while.
So let's flip this around a little bit. What can dads do to connect more with their teens without screens?
I think there are so many activities, take the dog for a walk, go out in nature. Kids once kids get outside in the woods, they may kick and scream against it. But once they get out in the woods, if there's a local park or, a state park or something, get them hiking, get them out in trails, go to sporting events. When you go out to a restaurant, don't have your phone out as an adult and don't allow your kids to have them out. Have a nice meal together and talk and find out what your young adult, maybe they have a passion. Maybe there's something they would like to volunteer as a family together and go do. I mean, I've gone to PetSmart on the weekends. They're always looking for volunteers and it's fun. There's nice people, there's animals, teenagers love dogs and cats. I would recommend that if you're a dad, go with your son. Say, hey, let's go help out. Let's go help out this week, or let's go for a day and walk the dogs. I mean, I'll tell you, these young adults love being around those animals, and it feels good to be helping also. So those would be a few things I would recommend.
Now let's go shift a little bit towards skills. What are some things that dads can teach now? So maybe some tips from your book. Obviously, read the whole book because you're not going to get everything here. But what are some simple tips, things that dads can do now to help their kids improve their social skills and be prepared for job interviews and see results right away?
A few things. I think it's really important that if you go to a restaurant with your family, provide the example first. The first time you go, you tell your son or daughter, that, okay, I'm going to order, but next time we come here, I'm going to have you order. And then you do that. You show them by example. And then the next time you say, okay, Ted, go ahead and as your dad, I'd like to see you order. And they can talk to the waiter or waitress, make the order. Or if you're calling to order a pizza, have them make the phone call. A lot of young adults are not comfortable calling. The other thing I highly recommend is either go to a farmer's market or be a mystery shopper and go shopping at your son or daughter's favorite store and ask them, okay, let's see why don't you tell me what the people are doing right and what they could improve upon as far as social skills. Were you greeted when you walked in that business or walked up to that farmer's market booth? Was the person on their phone or were they paying full attention to you? Did they say please and thank you? And then have your son or daughter practice these skills when they go into an establishment. Just practice hi. Just practice, make eye contact. That's the first page in my book. Smile and say hello. Or if they're at work, and you can do role playing with this, or if you have two teens, have them role play. Just practice, when somebody walks in saying, hi, how are you today? That's a big advantage over a lot of, unfortunately, it's so simple, but you walk in all these places, nobody says hi to you. So get them started doing that. And I've got mock interview, you can do mock role playing for job interviews. I think that's really important, where the dad can be the um, employee, and the son or daughter can be the employer, and then switch it around. Get them really comfortable with, some of the common questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work here? Things like that. So those are some ways I would start, and just make sure that even as a family, they're saying please and thank you. And when somebody says thank you, they're answering with you're welcome, not yep, not no problem, but you're welcome. And good eye contact, and a good smile, and good body language, standing up straight.
Talk a little bit about feedback, accepting feedback.
That's really important. It's funny you mentioned that, Jonathan, because just yesterday I saw something in an article that said, if you can't accept feedback graciously, you will never be successful. And I think we all have problems with that, challenges with that. But I think if a young adult can accept feedback, and if it's given in a positive way, and a young adult can realize that it's not criticism, we all need it, and it's to help them get better at something and feel more comfortable. So I would, when I had my retail store, for instance, I would tell my teens, I'm not criticizing you. You can tell me things that I can improve upon. This is to make you feel more comfortable, but give it a try. And then they'd come up to me and say, oh, you're right, that made me feel so much more confident with the customer, that I asked them, I listened, and I asked them, what will you be using these rollerblade skates for? So it's just, it's helpful. It's not something that's criticizing.
How do you prepare a teen for a hostile conflict?
What we used to teach in my store is, first of all, say I'm sorry. That's huge. I'm sorry. I had a problem the other day with a business, and the woman never said I'm sorry or anything. And I didn't really mind, but it would have been nice if they said that. So the first thing I taught my staff, which were mainly teenagers, just listen, respect that person. Say, I'm so sorry this happened. Why don't you tell me what happened? And then tell them, again, I'm so sorry it happened. Make good eye contact. And depending on what the situation is, you could ask them, what do you feel would be a fair way to deal with this? And if you're not, if you don't have the authority to do anything about it, you can say, what, I'm so sorry this happened. Let me go get my manager who can help you, and deal with it that way, and make sure you're saying please and thank you. A lot of times when you just listen and they vent and they get it out of their system, and you say, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry this happened. Let's make sure we can get this corrected. They're usually fine. I mean, people I've dealt with, if you don't do that, then it just explodes and it snowballs into a huge problem from a minor little fire. So that's what I would role play a lot of times with my staff, is situations. But I'll tell you, Jonathan, we never had many problems because people would come in our business, and immediately we'd say, like, hi, Jonathan, how are you today? It's nice to see you. And all of a sudden they're happy. So a lot of it is the attitude of the employee from the very start, making that great first impression. And that diffuses most people. A lot of people walk in and they're expecting a problem. They're thinking, oh, nobody's going to say hi to me. Nobody's going to help me, or they're going to hound me. This is not going to be a good experience. And if you pleasantly surprise them, the problem they had all of a sudden isn't that big.
So let's talk about a phone customer service role. If a
Sure.
teen is already used to being on their phone a lot, does that necessarily mean that they will have the skills to be able to manage a customer service role that is just phone only?
Not at all, because most teens, as you know, don't talk on the phone. They're texting, using it for social media, taking pictures. But no, they're not. Most teens have not been taught. What we used to do is a lot of role playing, and dads can do this with their son or daughter. They can be the dad can be the employer, and the teen can be the customer calling in, then switch roles. So I used to teach them, it's not hey, John's skate shop. It's good morning, it's John's skate shop. This is Tim. How may I help you? Whatever the business is, you're greeting that, your smile shines through the phone, and you're positive and upbeat. And I used to get people, when I answer the phone that way, they say, oh my gosh, what a difference. I never, it's just, the teen will get confidence because the customer is going to say, how nice, what a nice welcome. But they usually don't have those skills to do that.
On your website, you have a lot of curriculum. So tell me about your curriculum. Explain a little bit about what a dad would get out of taking that course and how it would help them navigate this process of preparing their teen for life socially?
I have the main book, and the differentiator with my products is they're quick and easy to read. I spent a lot of time for my Smile and Succeed for Teens book. I spent 9 months meeting with teenagers, even though it was based on my first book, which also I spent a lot of time getting rid of any wasted words. So they're low reading levels for comprehension. The teen book is a fourth grade reading level. Doesn't mean that it's dumbed down. It just means we got rid of any words that get in the way of comprehension. So it's quick, easy to comprehend. But what they get is the book, which is a crash course, and there's a parent's guide available. When you get those two, it's called a teen success kit. So the teenager gets the book. The parent has the parent's guide, so they don't have to go through the book and try to make up questions. All the work is done. This was suggested to me to create by parents. And they can do mock interviews with their son or daughter. They can do the customer service scenarios. I also have a teaching guide if they happen to be a teacher. I have classroom packs. But for most parents, I recommend the Teen Success Kit, which is the book and the parent's guide. Now, if they'd rather be online with it, the online course is the exact same content as the Smile and Succeed for Teens book. We just poured the words right into the online course. So the online course is great if the young adult would prefer to do it online. And then I'd still recommend the parent's guide, the physical parent's guide for the parent. The online course is the same as the book, other than we added curated videos to reinforce the concepts because it's online, and interactive questions and answers. So I also have an audiobook version of it and an ebook version of it. So I tried to make it so that the teen or young adult could digest it in whatever way they prefer. But the parent would definitely want the parent's guide, no matter how the teen is digesting Smile and Succeed for Teens book, if that makes any sense. I've, on my website, if people go there, there's a testimonials page, and I have over 200 testimonials from teachers on the book. I had a young lady that when we first made the online course, she's in Southern Ohio, and she's a student, and she was actually helping us test the course. My friend Deanne was a principal in Southern Ohio. Now she's a teacher, and she knew this young lady who was in 11th grade, and she went through the course, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I wish I would have had this, and I wish our high school had this, because I'm not ready for jobs, but after going through your course, I'm really confident, and I think I could go get a job in a minute, and I do really well at it." So it's just the basics, but a lot of these young people, they don't have confidence. It's high anxiety with their mental health. And every sentence I wrote in my solutions, I thought, oh, this will give that young adult confidence. Because I remember being a middle schooler and not having confidence. I didn't have these resources available to me. So I have had a lot of tons of great testimonials, people telling me stories. I had a woman that runs a restaurant in Greektown, and she was going to fire one of her waitresses because they weren't being nice to police officers. They didn't like police officers. Greektown is a big area down in downtown Detroit where they have the casinos and the Red Wings play. So she bought 3 of my books for her waitresses and then came back. This was at a local store she bought them. So I'm hearing this story from the store owner. And then she went back and bought 7 more. And she said that next morning, the waitress got a $20. That same waitress she was going to fire got a $20 tip from a police officer the next morning. And so she said
Wow.
and she told me I would pay the store owner said, the woman said to her, I would pay $1,000 for this book. So if that's, those are the kind of success stories. And from schools, I usually get a lot of teachers that will just say, I'm already noticing the kids are more comfortable. They're making good eye contact. They're standing up straight. In fact, I had one, it was funny. There was one teacher that said she used the book in her school, and at graduation, when the principal was shaking the kids' hands, the students' hands, the principal came up to the teacher and said, I expected loosey-goosey handshakes and poor eye contact. They all had great handshakes, great eye contact, and they were standing up straight. And the teacher said it's from the book. So yeah, it's full of great testimonials like that, because I had a lot of people help me write the book, moms and teachers and teenagers. It's not just me. I knew the basics from my store, the training program, but a lot of people gave me great input to put this together.
How can dads learn more about your course or get your books?
They can go to my website, www.smilethebook.com, and there's the online course there. And if they click on books, they can pick whatever book they want. There's also the Teen Success Kit in the drop-down menu under books, so they can go that way. My books are also on, the online course isn't, but my books and audiobook and ebook are on Amazon. Just make sure if you get the book, it said it's sold by Amazon and printed by Amazon, sold by Amazon and shipped by Amazon. I only say that because I just found a couple counterfeiters that are taking my ebook and they're selling print books on there. So it wouldn't be under Amazon's name, and they're very low quality because the ebook doesn't print good. So I don't want people to get a low quality book. So again, sold by Amazon, shipped by Amazon, not sold by Riley and Company and shipped by, Amazon. So just so they get a good quality.
Just to make things easier, also, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com, that's thefatherhoodchallenge.com. If you go to this episode, look right below the episode description, and I will have the links posted there for your convenience. Kirt, as we close, what is your challenge to dads listening now?
3 things to start. Have a family meal with your son or daughter, one day a week where there's no phones. Or if you go to a restaurant, have a family meal where there's no phones, and just talk to them. Ask them, how was your week? What do you like to do? What are you looking forward to? Things like that. What are you passionate about? Are there causes you're interested in helping with in the world? Things like that. The other thing, if they do have grandparents, or if they can visit a senior living center, take them to the grandparents and, no phones. Have them get used to talking to other people face to face and doing that in a way that's going to help the other person too, like the grandma and grandpa, or at a senior assisted living center. I mean, a lot of those people never get to see anybody. So I think it would be great to arrange a situation where you can go in and just talk to some of the residents that are just relaxing. There's usually a living area, kind of a living room area in the center. I would do that. And I want to reiterate that mystery shopping experience, once you go through the techniques in my book with your son or daughter, then take them into a store and say, okay, tell me, and there's a sheet you can print out on the parent's guide that's got a mystery shopping experience. Just fill that out to see what type of service you had when you went in this store. The other thing I would say is let your son or daughter get a part-time job. That's so important for so many reasons. Even if it's 4 hours a week, kids are not working part-time jobs now. They're losing that confidence. They're afraid to make mistakes, high anxiety because of this. This will lower their anxiety. It will let them learn it's okay to make mistakes. They can practice their social skills. That would probably be my number one tip. And if you don't want them to get a part-time job, go volunteer with them somewhere, with a local Rotary Club, or like I said, at PetSmart. But get them out practicing those social skills. And even if it's just a simple skill as, okay, today, son, let's just go and we'll both practice saying hello to somebody and making good eye contact. Just that. Start with that. If they're more advanced, then go into the more advanced techniques in my book.
Kirt, it has been absolutely an honor having you on the Fatherhood Challenge. I've learned so much from you, and I know the audience has. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Jonathan. Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fatherhood Challenge. If you would like to contact us, listen to other episodes, find any resource mentioned in this program, or find out more information about the Fatherhood Challenge, please visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.